Okay, can everyone hear me? Brilliant. So yeah, my name's Tom Broadbent and I work for a company called AWSSEAL, and I'm going to take you through Brighty, our AI assistant, which we think may be the world's first mechanical seal expert. Before I start, let's have a show of hands. Who's heard of a company called AWSSEAL before?
We're the architects, we do some work for you, sir.
There you go, 3 people, right, okay. Who's heard of a mechanical seal before? 1 person, 1 person. Built a building, they didn't even know what they do. Anyway, so hopefully that's 2 things that you might learn from today, is what AWSSEAL is and what a mechanical seal is. So I'm head of digital transformation at AWSSEAL, and basically Brighty is what I'm going to talk about today. It's an AI assistant that we started off as a bit of a project. We started off as a bit of an exploration of what tools are available, can we harness them in a manufacturing environment, and with the challenges that, if you've ever worked with an engineer or maybe even an architect, there's, some detail that they like to have so that, you can't hallucinate and come up with rubbish. You have to prove where it came from, all that kind of challenge. So, the first thing you're going to learn, who is AWSSEAL? Well, we're a mechanical seal manufacturer, and we've been around since 1979, based in Rotherham, just down from the Rotherham United football ground. You may have noticed, if you watch football, that the ground is sponsored by AWSSEAL. And what we do is produce those kind of products that you can see on screen, which means absolutely nothing to everyone in this room, other than the fact that you wouldn't get your chocolate or your beer or your washing up liquids, because without those products all the pumps would leak and you wouldn't actually be able to move process fluid anywhere. So before I joined the company 14 years ago, I was in the same position. I didn't have a clue what they were. But you start to get a little bit nerdy around these kind of things, and you understand what they actually do and the importance of them. And during the dark days of COVID, it was, can you go into work or can you not go into work? Well, everyone at AWSSEAL who operated a machine was classed as a critical business or a critical employee, because it's critical infrastructure. Power generation wouldn't work without these kind of products. But as you can imagine, and starting from the left or starting from the bottom where there's a bit of rope on screen, that's the simplest version of sealing something. And then you get into the middle where it says compressor seals. They're like the Formula 1 version of these kind of seals. And they run at about 35,000 RPM, which is faster than the Formula 1 engine. Sealing pressures of about 350 bar, I think it is. So enough pressure to go bang with a loud bang. So they go in all kinds of dangerous applications, from oil and gas rigs to sewage pumps. So that's a bit of an idea, and specifying and selecting and understanding which product works best and why you'd use it typically relies on an experienced engineer to answer those kind of questions. So we have sites all over the world. We're based in Rotherham, but we have sites in America, Australia, South Africa, India, China, all the major economies. And the typical question is, you're speaking to a commercial administrator to order something, or order one of these items. What material do I need on this application? Or, does this fit? Or why would I use that over that? And typically it would rely on, going up to the engineering team and asking that kind of question. So that's why we kind of thought, well, actually, do we need alternative tools for that purpose? But a little bit about AWSSEAL as far as its digital journey. Obviously, head of digital transformation, I've got to fit that in somewhere. Manufacturing has been, heavily involved in Sheffield's economy for a while. But as we kind of progress and the India and China and Vietnams of the world come into the space, we've got to be competitive. The only way to do that is through development of apps. So that's a handful of our apps / systems that we pay a license fee for, such as SAP. But they're all forming part of our digitalization of the business to make things as easily found and productive as possible, and just making it as easy as possible for the person in South Africa to find the right product and to quote the customer for the duty. We're also doing stuff within our manufacturing environment. So these are photos from relatively newly installed machines in our Rotherham headquarters, where we've got 26 robots that run around a little grid, picking boxes out of a grid and providing the product that needs to be picked and shipped. We also have lots of CNC machines to cut metal, but we've started to progress into actually a robot cell that picks the raw material off a conveyor belt, puts it in the machine does its thing, the machine then finishes, gets it cleaned, inspected, and the finished item comes out. So whatever we can do to kind of move us on the kind of automation, productivity enabled route we're doing. And then that naturally leads on to AI, which, you know, is fairly disruptive kind of technology. You look at the graphs where it's kind of how long has it taken to get mobile phones in place around the world. It took decades. Everyone's talking and everyone's using AI to some kind of level, even to create masterpieces. So we thought we'd better explore it. How did we do it? Well, I like to dip my toes and see whether the marketing is up to the reality. So in summer 2023, we had a few criteria of, could it do this? Could we give it some documentation, technical data sheets for, you know, as an example, and then answer questions based on that information, because we want to be in control of the information. So yeah, we took someone on as a summer placement, and we requested from Microsoft, can we have access to your OpenAI services? And we filled out a nice form, got it vetted, and then within, you know, it said it would take 7 days to get this back to you. Within 12 hours, we had access to Azure OpenAI platform. And then we just kind of worked through the list of what ifs. Could we give it a document and put it into a storage account, a blob store on Azure, put a language search and an indexer on top of it, and then plug that into OpenAI, and then create a web app using Azure services and get a front end to ask these kind of questions. Turns out, yes, you can, and it's very easy to do, or I say relative, very easy. I didn't do it, someone cleverer than me did it, but it seemed to be very easy to do. And then it was just evolving from there. So instead of just providing the information or hallucinating and guessing the information to get, let's restrict it so if it can't find the information and it can't prove where it got the information from, then it will say, I can't help you. You know, be very strict with it. And it's evolved, and I've got a video to show you where it's at the moment, but it's evolved to the point where we've beta released it to America and the UK and Canada. And we've got sales guys, commercial administrators, various people in the businesses asking it everyday questions that they get from customers. So without going into too much detail, and you might, you know, if you remember what this UI looks like, you'll know where it came from, but, you know, what kind of AI service or technologies are we using? Whereas natural language, same as creating the art, you ask it a simple plain question of what is a DMSF, which means nothing to anyone in this room, but it's one of our products, and it goes and finds the information and answers the question. So natural language processing is currently being used. We're exploring things like computer vision. So, you know, one of those products on the screen, you could take a photo and go, well, a bit of a Google Lens kind of idea. You know, what is this product without knowing anything about the products, that kind of stuff. So we'll probably evolve it into other areas, but at the moment we're focusing purely on natural language capabilities. So what I've got, and hopefully, if I put it on the screen, that is on. Oh, let me just sort this out. Cool. Never was any good at PowerPoint. But this is a little video that we did to launch it to our American Canadian teams. Forgive the American voice, if you can hear that. But basically you can see, yeah, this is some information around the literature, brochures, all that kind of stuff that we put into our Brighty tool.
Starting a conversation with Brighty is simple. Just type your question in the "What's your question" box, and Brighty will provide a detailed reply in seconds.
So, what is DMSF? Now you know. There you go, you've learned 3 things today. And there you go, so we've got the proof.
Give feedback on the accuracy of Brighty's response using the thumbs up or thumbs down buttons, whether positive or negative.
Very much like you get from ChatGPT, but it's specifically our information, it's referencing our information, it's referencing the documents. We even explored, can you switch on some read out loud services, so sales guys driving, they speak into their phone, ask the question in Brighty, listen to the response, you know, all that kind of stuff, hands-free. So we've explored all the different services that you can do. Very Stephen Hawking-esque business voice. And there you go, you get the proof so that the engineers who are a bit cynical of the kind of capability, the kind of technology, can then see where the information came from.
Click on these to generate additional
and then we've got some prompts. So the prompts, depending on what you've asked previously, are then based on what your typical interests are or what the conversation's all about. Sharing it, copying it, all that kind of stuff that makes working with these kind of tools easier.
Such as creating an email with the content it has generated.
And then without doing anything, because the models have been trained on all this kind of, you know, written language,
conversations from the Conversations tab, and even
what does it
title, making them
then read like?
Later.
We put in some bells and whistles as far as tracking your conversations.
Responses from engineers. Brighty turns hours into seconds, marking the start of AWSSEAL's journey in using AI to deliver exceptional customer service. Experience the future of mechanical seal expertise with Brighty, your AI-powered assistant.
There we go, we've heard enough from him. Oh, stop. So yeah, we kind of see this as the start of the process. We've got, as part of the AS group, we've got reliability businesses which focus on upgrading and improving the reliability of pumps and assets and that kind of stuff. So no doubt we'll be doing some more statistical analysis, data science kind of stuff around that kind of business. As far as this, from a customer service point of view, that's where we've aimed it. But we know that fundamentally we want to train it and develop it to be the world's first mechanical seal expert, or artificially intelligent one at least, which, you know, by everyone not knowing in this room what a mechanical seal is, it's probably quite doable. And then, yeah, we're basically going to create a team of AI assistants for helping with technical, retrieving technical documentation, retrieving information, you know, as far as company legal assistance, that kind of stuff. You know, any question that you'd ask, want to be able to find information on, this is perfect technology for it. And just driving it through the kind of conversation of, I want this information, or can you draft that email based on that information you just provided me, all that kind of stuff. It's seemingly relatively easy to do. And as long as you've got an Azure account and you fill out the form and you say that you're not going to use it for evil, they give you access to it. So yeah, that's a brief overview of Brighty and what we're doing at AWSSEAL. I don't know if we've got any questions. I may have flew through it, so we might have some time for ones. So yes, I think you were put your hand up first.
I'm curious about the reception of these tools in your factory sales departments. How are they finding it?
So it's quite interesting. We've got 58 users. That was last week, having access. Some are sales engineers, some are commercial administrators, some have been with the business for decades. Some have been with the business for like 6 months. What we found is that some of the really experienced engineers have actually used it and, fed back and tried to teach it or helped teach it, because fundamentally, if you give it feedback, we're not really teaching Microsoft's model. We're fixing the information or the underlying functions and program behind the scenes to provide a better, more accurate response. And some of that's around enabling semantic search rather than plain text searching, or ultimately moving to vector searching. But they've been, highest users. The experienced guys, old school, who like paper and talking to people, which was quite surprising. But overall, AES is quite unusual in that people who work for the company like to see progress, like to see things done well and, moving the business forward. So it's been overall positive. There's always the natural kind of hesitation of, well, is it going to replace what I'm doing? But that's where a business-owned or an own limited business rather than a PLC is slightly different in that mentality, because, you can't, it's lower risk from the steady employees. Hopefully that answers the question. We need someone with a stick. Either.
You mentioned that it's got the ability to sort of cite its sources almost. Was that something that you had from the beginning, or was that something that was asked for by your engineers?
No, so we had, when we started out with the list of 5 things, could it do these things? We had some key principles that we defined. So it couldn't be biased. It had to prove where it got the information from, hence the citing. We evolved it so that it wasn't just here's the information, but actually annotating the comments in terms of, this text came from this reference and all that kind of citation. So that evolved a bit, but the criteria was always that it proved where it came from. Because, to feed into the natural kind of resistance to these kind of technologies, you've got to be able to prove where it is, especially in our kind of industry and a lot of engineering businesses. You've got to know where the information comes from and be able to prove it and fundamentally go back to the source of the information. When we didn't have it quite so strict in terms of if you don't provide this documentation and you can't prove where it came from and put annotations, we did get some hallucinations where the model had knowledge of who Chris Ray was, who AWSSEAL was, what a mechanical seal was, and it would put that together with information that it had elsewhere. So, it was always a criterion. We would have never got it to released it to America and Canada without it being very strict.
As I understand it, it's purely an internal tool at the moment.
Yes.
Do you see in future where your customers might have access to it?
Yes, but only when we're very comfortable that that's, it's doing as good a job as someone who, could look up the information and provide that information to them. But for this moment in time, the next stage will be to roll it out to other companies in other areas of the world. So Australia, South Africa, that kind of place where they've got long time delays just because of the time zones to get to the engineering teams to ask the questions. But ultimately, some of the apps that are showed at the start, where some of them are customer-facing apps, where it's put the inquiry through and you create a quote. Everyone likes to deal with people and everyone likes to have a conversation, asking a simple question and then progress into, well, actually, what's the price and delivery? So we'll probably integrate it with more customer-facing apps ultimately. And at that point, it'll be, like the question, well, should we just put this in the hands of the customers? But for the time being, purely internal.
Awesome.
I've not looked over this side, but
Well, if anybody has
Matt-
any other questions, one more back, yes.
But you compared with performance, which is like the early ChatGPT in terms of the responses it gives.
In terms of the information it provides, so as far as so we've got another option within Brighty that you can just ask the base model the same question. And it's really good for, how do I update this SQL to you know, it's not working for this reason, can you update it? Or, you know, whatever it is. That's the base model, OpenAI model, which effectively is ChatGPT. The information that it provides through Brighty in the engineering platform is solely the information in the documentation that we've given it. So the two won't give the same answer. And yeah. And because we're in control of the information we're giving it, and it can only use that information to answer it, from a company's point of view, it's, you know, it's lower risk. And then it then feeds into everyone's going to use AI and AI services. Well, actually, as a company risk point of view, if we give them the option or capability to do it, but it's in a platform that we're fundamentally in control of, then it reduces that risk, especially in our industry. You can't get things wrong. So hopefully.
Well, thanks very much.
All right.
Tom.
Thank you.